That's the difference between being Jean Grey and being Phoenix.
Yeah.
So
stay tuned.
Yeah, speaking as the telepath. Yeah.
We're about to hit 4th level here pretty soon. So,
Hello, and welcome to Khyber Shards, a 5th edition actual play show set in the Eberron campaign world. I'm Philip.
I'm Eric.
And tonight is another Khyber Shards Answers episode, our little extras on Friday, where we sit down and talk a little about where the campaign is, take a few questions from our wonderful patrons over on Discord. And if you'd like to get questions to us for Khyber Shards, you can join our Discord. You can find a link down in the description below. You can also offer us questions posted as comments on any of these videos.
Yep.
We do have a drive going on to try and get a little bit more user engagement through comments. In the current arc of episodes, you've seen that we made it 25 comments on a video, and so I have put on the doublet, and I've promised that I will make the costume more elaborate if we can get to 40 comments on a video. We're not there yet, but when we get there, I don't know, add steampunk goggles or something. We'll see what. I don't know what yet. We'll see. Yes. We'll see when we start getting close. I'll start sweating and figure something out.
Should be from all different genres. You should go with like something very science fiction next,
super
and then
inconsistent.
steampunk. And
that's ultra modern.
Yeah.
You can also engage with us in a lot of other ways. Eric, tell them about the social medias.
Yes, we are on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at The Geek Pantheon. You can find us there. We also have a website, thegeekpantheon.com, that we do podcasts that go up there and the occasional blog post as well. And we have a Facebook group that you can search The Geek Pantheon for. All of the links are down below. And additionally, if you want to talk in real time about the episodes or D&D in general, I do stream on Twitch every Sunday and Tuesday at 8 p.m. Central and Saturday mornings at 8 a.m. And occasionally Philip hangs out in chat also. So come hang out and have a good time. I think that's everything.
Well, let's get to it. Before I forget, I wanted to address, because there was a question a couple of these back from Darren about how I was going to start tracking the web of relationships with the various factions in Stormreach. And so I wanted to throw a quick plug to the resource I am going to use for that. I'm going to be using faction rules from Ultimate Kingdoms by Legendary Games, which you can find on DriveThruRPG. I don't think it's on the DM's Guild. I'm not sure what the rules are for what goes on which one of those, but yeah, I know it's on DriveThruRPG, and that's where I got it. It is a 5e resource, so maybe it will eventually be on DM's Guild.
Maybe if you only use the open game license parts, it can go on DriveThruRPG, and if you use anything else, it has to be DM's Guild. That would be my best guess. Yeah.
If you know, let us know in the comments. We'd be interested to find out. But I liked it so well that I bought a copy from them on their website in hard copy, because I still like to flip through old-fashioned paper books.
Yep.
But it's got a lot of really cool systems for running kingdoms and organizations at every level. It's even got rules for suggested rules for personal individual relationships if you're playing a game where individual relationships need to be tracked. I don't particularly like the idea of tracking individual relationships, but I've already talked about that on a different episode. But that's what I'm going to be using. I'm developing right now, working on developing different kinds of rewards for different kinds of organizations. I've created one for the Swords of Karn and sent it out to the players, since that's who they're currently doing a job for in the current set of episodes. And I will post general notes, nothing specific, obviously, because I didn't create this material. I'll post general notes for that on our DM's spellbook if you want to be able to sort of follow along. It's enough to follow along without getting into anything that somebody else made.
Which, for those of you confused as to what that means, that is the $3 a month or higher reward for our wonderful patrons over at patreon.com/thegeekpantheon.
Yep. But you should be able, we should explain enough in the episodes when it starts to become relevant that you'll be able to follow us, hopefully. And if you can't, ask us and I'll get into it a little more on another one of these. Anyway, so we've got Eric back with Ahri. So Eric, how are you enjoying the campaign so far?
I mean, it's one of those things where I want to give you all of the credit for my level of enjoyment, but it might be the fact that this is the first time I've played in a decade, that I'm just so giddy to be having fun playing at a table. But no, I'm really enjoying the campaign a lot, and I think it's not for any of the reasons that any of us thought when we started this campaign, but it's such a character focused game thus far. Like, there's just so much like talking and like role playing and going back and forth. And I mean, I'm a theater kid who took a lot of improv classes in college, so that's like my wheelhouse. If you ask me to just talk in a character for a half hour, it's gonna be like, sure, yeah, let's go. But no, I like the city of Stormreach. Obviously, you and I both have a lot of experience with that city, going all the way back to our first Eberron campaign. So I love the city, and I think the thing I love, though, the most about this campaign thus far is the opportunity to recontextualize so much of what we like about Eberron by having a distinctly different campaign, playing like aberrant marked individuals on the run from the dragon marked houses, and playing a character who is so adamantly anti dragon marked houses to the point where it recontextualizes his view of the world. So there's so many figures that have positive relationships with dragon marks in the fiction of Eberron that normally we play as very positive people that Ahri would just hate because of their relationship. So that's also a lot of fun for me, is to recontextualize the world from a new perspective. So
yeah. What's something, since you've been playing him now for a while, what's something you've learned about Ahri that you didn't expect when you created the character?
It feels like a cop-out to go with something that I mentioned on one of these before, of the fact that like I was not expecting Ahri to be the grown-up in the room so much. Like I expected him to be the brash, like young, hot-headed one, which he still is, but it's just, relatively speaking, like, but no, I think that Ahri is a lot more scared, I think, than I thought he was going to be initially. Like, and it becomes a bit more galvanized later in this arc, so I'm not going to give too much away for fear of spoilers. But and I think it was the moment that Falco showed up in the bar was the moment that like it really contextualized for me of like, Ahri would have been, Ahri's scared. Ahri's looking over his shoulder. Ahri is worried that that his past is going to catch up to him. And I think that fear is fueled by the fact that he can't go on the run like the others can. He's a domesticated cat. And so so that kind of fuels that paranoia of there's this entire continent of jungle that he would just go die in. So so yeah.
Cool. Well, let's jump in and look at a couple of questions.
Yeah.
So we have a question from Eric. Is there a rivalry between Ahri and Esri as far as Ahri is concerned?
I don't know if rivalry is the right word, but there's definitely, I mean, out of everybody in the group, there's definitely the most contention between Ahri and Esri, just because of their differing worldviews. And I think that was pretty well foreshadowed in the session 0 of just their views on the program they were in, and their views on Sorin. And I think that divide has just continued to build in like one moment that really surprised me that I didn't think they would be on opposite sides of was when we were talking about how to ingratiate ourselves in Stormreach to build kind of that security blanket around us. And Ahri's was very like, let's go become heroes of the people, champions of the people, to where if something bad were to happen to us, the community would flock around us to protect us. Whereas Esri was, let's go appeal to power and let's go appeal to authority and get in their good graces, and then they'll protect us. And I mean, I guess I should have seen that coming, given that if you have a positive view of the Dragon Marked houses, you're going to have a more positive view of authority. Whereas if you're anti that, then so I think rivalry is the wrong word. I think they just have different worldviews right now. And I think that leads them to having different ideas of basically how every situation should be resolved. Except that neither of them are inherently violent, which I think keeps things from becoming too bad. Like, I feel like if one of them was trying to talk to somebody and the other one was just hitting them with a sword, that would become a much more difficult relationship to balance. Whereas right now they both want to talk. It's just they both want to use different skills when they're talking. So yeah. So for Ahri, it's interesting because the fact that they've been and I have to remind myself that like this group has been together for years at this point. And we're just now seeing how contentious Ahri and Esri are with one another. And has it been that way for all this time? And my God, do I feel sorry for Shade and Pog if that's the case? Like, how do you still live with these two people? And so, yeah, it's interesting. Not full on rivalry, not full on antagonistic, just, roommates that view the world differently. So, yeah.
Yeah. And also from Eric, what does Ahri think that the strengths of Esri, Pog, and Shade are?
I mean, Shade obviously is a survivalist, and by both necessity and skill. But I also think that Shade's biggest strength is like a demand that everybody stay together. Like, I feel like without Shade and Pog in the mix, Ahri and Esri just would have gotten to Stormreach and be like, okay, it's been something, but I'll hopefully see you never. And I think that Shade's greatest strength is that unwillingness to like, no, we are sticking together. We need to rely on each other. And then Pog, obviously Pog has the muscles. And so I'm sure there have been multiple situations where Pog has punched somebody that Ahri needed punching. But Pog is just so relentlessly sincere and genuine and sweet. And for somebody like Ahri that has to spend a lot of his life double talking and like laying on compliments and not being the most sincere, that level of sincerity really keeps Ahri in check from time to time, and realizing like there are situations where just, saying what you feel and what you mean is probably the best way to go. And then for Esri, I mean, I think, and obviously I'm not going with, like, if we want to go mechanics, then Shade is survival, Pog is fights, and Esri is medicine. But with Esri, I do think having that kind of foil strengthens Ahri in a certain extent. Having somebody to constantly keep him in check and thinking ahead and having to galvanize his own thoughts on different circumstances is a good thing. I mean, iron sharpens iron, as they say. And so I think Ahri would be worse off without somebody like Esri there to constantly bang his head up against a brick wall. So, yeah.
So yeah, I think someone who sees your blind spots.
Yeah. Yeah. And somebody that, like, you don't always know how to articulate why you think something until somebody challenges you on that thing and forces you to like talk through your process and how you got to that conclusion. And so having somebody like Esri that's just there to be like, but why? It's like, well, okay, let me figure that out and then I'll tell you. So, yeah.
Cool. And we have a couple from Leopard to Ace. The first one seems to be a general one. So how exactly did the portals work? So Boggles, on the stat block for Boggles, when it talks about their dimensional rift power, only the Boggle can use the rift, and it lasts until the end of the Boggle's next turn. So one way to interpret that is you try to go through a Boggle's rift, and either you run into a brick wall or you just walk through it. Like it's just not there. Like it's just emptiness to you. But I thought this was more fun about 5 seconds before it happened.
Yeah.
It occurred to me that would be much more amusing to have something wild happen when you go through a Boggles portal. Now, just speaking from a GM perspective and not wanting to like pick on my players, I think it would have been an issue if I had caused it to be like harmful.
Yeah.
I mean, you could reinterpret it and say, well, this is what Boggles are like in my Eberron, and that would be fine. It's just that's a much more dangerous monster now. At least the first time when the players don't know that. Then you've got them doing the Doctor Strange portals in Infinity War and lopping off people's limbs with them or something like that. So I just wanted something funny and freaky to happen because Boggles are Fae, and Fae creatures are weird, man. So yeah, it was just fun. I thought it would be funny, and it really was because they kept trying. I really thought I'd get it once. And the fact that I got it so many times was just delightful.
One of my favorite lines of that episode is Shade going, well, if I don't understand it, then I'm just going to jump in. It's like, yep.
Oh man. Yeah.
But yeah,
So,
yes. I think you played it well with like Shade obviously going in and then flying up in the air. It would have been an easy impulse to be like, and you take X amount of falling damage. But
sure.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate that it was something fun and inventive, but not inherently harmful or disruptive.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, but essentially the way the Boggles, to answer your question mechanically, the Boggle can here. I'll just read you the thing. As a bonus action, the Boggle can create an invisible, immobile rift within the opening or frame it can see within 5 feet of it, provided the space is no bigger than 10 feet on any side. The dimensional rift bridges the difference between the distance between the space and any point within 30 feet of it. So the Boggle can see or specify. Within 30 feet of it that the Boggle can see or specify, and as long as it's next to its end of the rift, the Boggle is considered next to whatever is next to the rift. So the Boggle can reach through, grab stuff. The Boggle can step through and go through the space. So it really is. A lot of people in comments while we were watching said, "Now I feel like playing Portal." Yes, that is how a Boggle's Portal's dimensional rift works. Is it's creating a simple little wormhole, essentially. So, that's how it works mechanically, and that's how I interpreted the thing with it flinging them back out the other way. And then Leopard also had a question for Eric, although it's addressed to Ahri specifically, so I don't know if you want to take this in character. But it says, "It's Ahri. How did it feel to be outpaced by Esri without him breaking a sweat?"
Well, you see, here's the thing. No, I'm not going to answer it. Once again, without getting too deep into what's to come, things happen to where this doesn't get really addressed. It might in the future. Ahri was super annoyed by Esri during that whole chase scene because, from Ahri's mindset, we are fighting for Pog's job at this point. Like, if we don't get this resolved, then eventually Carl's just going to have to shut down the bar. Or fire Pog in the near future. And so, Ahri takes that incredibly serious. And so from Jump Street, the casual nature with which Esri was treating the situation was of great annoyance. So to answer your question directly, Leopard, the fact that Esri was able to get there at the same time as Ahri without breaking a sweat was greatly annoying on multiple levels for Ahri. Because like we kind of talked about, Ahri had tried to scale a building and failed horribly. I have a -1 athletics modifier and I rolled a 1. So, they arrived at the same time because Ahri was literally breaking
Ahri
his
has
body.
a concussion.
Yeah, Ahri was breaking his body against stone, and Esri was just having a nice little stroll through the streets. So, yeah.
I enjoyed it. It's really interesting because it has been pointed out so often in various comments, things like that, that we got Ahri and Esri, the two adults in the room, and these two wacky, helpless kids, Shade and Pog. But then we threw us in a situation where it required action, and man, Ahri and Esri are helpless. Yeah. We've got Pog and Shade leaping rooftops and bounding across the city towards danger, and Ahri, being his charismatic self, doing his darndest and failing.
Trying so hard.
Trying so hard, yes. And Esri deciding, there's no way that I keep up with them, so why tire myself out? And so it was very nice to me to present a situation where we see, oh, this is really what Shade and Pog bring to the table, is they're the ones who can get into it and fast. So I enjoyed the chase scene for that, but also it was funny. I thought it was just a really fun little madcap run through the town
sequence. Yeah. And that's why Ahri keeps screaming at them like, I can do one thing well. Just let me do the one thing. Anything else, I'm helpless. I need you all. But so,
you have any other particular thoughts on the most recent events?
Yeah, I mean, it was. I was excited to get back into it because obviously, due to the costume change, you all can tell that this was us picking back up where we left off from a month of waiting to try to tempt these darn boggles. But the moment, obviously, that I would love to hear from you about, if I can ask you a question. Let me turn these tables real quick.
I suppose.
I mean, obviously, the Shade lightning bolt moment, I think, is a big thing that deserves being talked about. So, like, what was... Because we talked post-recording a bit about this, but, like, what was the decision-making process in that moment? Like, how did you decide lightning bolt? And if you want to talk about the more metatextual stuff surrounding it, then yeah.
Sure. So my intention has been, so everybody got to start with an Abberant mark as a little bit of a bonus feat. And my intention was always for the marks to develop and grow. But we run into a little bit of a narrative thing when you do that, because here we have 4 individuals with these highly unpredictable things, and if all of their marks suddenly evolve simultaneously, it's just a little, I don't know, it takes me out of it. Yeah, I don't like it. I always do milestone leveling, so I never have players with different levels of experience. So they all, they're all going to get their feats at the same time. They're all going to get their subclasses at the same time, that sort of thing, or more or less. I realized Esri got his at level 2, but the Dragon Mark is such a big narrative thing for the Dragon Mark to evolve, especially because I don't know for sure whether these characters knew that was a thing that could happen. I mean, you see true Dragon Marks of different sizes, so it stands to reason, but it may just not be something that's ever occurred to you. Oh my gosh, it could get, well, better or worse, depending on your interpretation of the situation. So we were coming up on a point where I was ready for them to start evolving. and I had made the decision that I was going to look for moments of narratively cool moments, and also moments of high strain for that to happen, because that's kind of the way that you trigger things with Dragon Mark. And so when Casey had Shade try to lightning lure the Otyugh, I was immediately concerned, can you lightning lure something that big? But then we realized, well, she's not actually in range. And I thought, okay, well, that would be an interesting thing here. Partly because the Otyugh is it's a very dangerous monster for the level you guys were at. To draw back the curtain a little bit, that is not what was in the building when you guys went through the door. I had made a decision in the moment and switched the monsters that I had in mind.
Okay.
Because I thought this would be an interesting fight, and I had a plan if something went terribly wrong, which was a real possibility here. But then this happened, and the choice of lightning bolt was, well, she tried to lightning lure it, but she can't get to it, so another lightning spell. And I probably could have come up with a different lightning spell that was less powerful, but lightning bolt was the one that I immediately knew I could grab, and so I went with it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was kind of how the decision-making process went in my head in that moment. Was this is a good moment. Shade is again losing control. She's again reacting, or, well, I say losing control. We didn't really address that aspect of it. I'm not sure whether in Casey's mind that was Shade panics and loses control, or if that was Shade making a deliberate choice. So I don't want to speak for her on that, but it read to me as Shade losing control. And so it seemed like a really cool narrative moment. From a meta perspective, from a rules perspective, what I intend to do is every time marks evolve, as you would normally find in the various interpretations of Abberant marks out there, you get a new spell-like ability of a higher level from the mark. But in addition, because I always liked the really weird Dragon Mark feats from the old 3.5 books, especially Dragon Marked, the old Eberron source book, which has just a huge number of crazy things you can make marks do. Yeah. And I really like the fact that it's supposed to go, I've been listening to and reading everything Keith Baker's ever said about Aberrant marks. And one of the things that he keeps reiterating is a Dragon Mark is really supposed to be a lot more than a spell-like ability. A spell-like ability is kind of the thing we can do mechanically to represent what this is, but it's really, and Aberrant marks could be anything. Yeah. And so I've started coming up with a list of upgrades, essentially, evolutions, that are some created by me, some I've pulled from sources, some I've updated from old 3.5 rules. And every time the mark evolves, I'm going to let the player also choose one of those evolutions to attach to their mark. So it will be interesting to see where people go with those. But I think they're pretty cool, and I'm looking forward to see what we get, because I really want. Well, we pitched this as X-Men, right? This is X-Men and Eberron, and so I want the characters to start feeling like superheroes. And I realize that I'm definitely setting up the characters to become very powerful, potentially very quickly, which obviously you wouldn't know anything about from Eberron Renewed. There's nothing like that.
Yeah.
But that
doesn't lead to any problems later on in the campaign, Philip, I can assure you.
But like I say, I don't mind. I can throw more powerful things at you or create weirder situations for you to get yourselves into, and it'll just be fun. So that's kind of where that was, and I think it turned into a really cool moment. We get more of a little bit of the fallout of that in the next couple of episodes. We kind of stopped on the realization, but we get a little more of that upcoming. So stay tuned for that pet cameo. Yeah. So.
Okay.
Yeah. So, as we go forward, I'll be watching for other narrative moments. I don't want to do them all, in too quick succession because that poses exactly the same issue. So it's kind of going to be just a judgment thing for when something goes terribly wrong or terribly well for a character, depending on the situation. Is kind of where I'll go.
Yeah. And I had the stark realization when you talked about our dragon marks evolving and growing, because obviously knowing Eberron lore, least, lesser, greater dragon marks vary in size as well. And having already described Ahri's dragon mark as being right back here, you only have so much real estate before the hairline's got to start changing. So yeah, I had that realization, like, crap.
Yeah. My intention also, because this has been asked as well, and we haven't really dealt with it yet, but my intention also is that as the marks grow in power, the trouble of having a mark grows. Aberrant marks are typically in some way detrimental to their bearer, whether it's because the mark is slowly driving them mad, or the mark is gradually deforming them, or what. We'll come up with some different options for that. But I'm also going to start requiring, as the marks evolve, characters to accept some kind of flaw to go along with the mark. Nothing, I think, enormous, and nothing that's going to make the character feel dumb.
Yeah.
But probably looking at things like the unfavorable qualities for magic items lists in the DM's guide, that kind of thing are probably
retribution for all the ones I threw at you. I see. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not going to do it too randomly, but yes, there's some fun options there.
I'll roll randomly if you want me to. I'll just well, yeah, as somebody controlling a character whose dragon mark directly taps into his own mind that allows him to manipulate others' minds, I feel great about this moving forward. So
yeah, it's gonna be good, and we'll be looking at that madness table real hard for Ahri, I think. But and a lot of the marks are going to have a hard time growing without becoming real visible real fast.
Yeah,
because
we have
Pogs is also up here, and then Esri are on his palms.
Yeah.
And so, again, Esri can get away with it with long sleeves, I guess. But
Ahri's going to have to start rocking a headband eventually.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to see where it goes and how you guys choose to visually manifest that. Because I intend to let you guys determine that. I will say, I'm sure some of you are wondering, so the different levels of dragon marks go from least, which is what you start off with, to lesser to greater. There is, for true dragon marks, a level above that called a Sybaris mark, and it is theorized that there would then be a Khyber mark. And in Moorgrave Miscellany, which is a Keith Baker product you can get on the DM's Guild, he does present a Khyber mark feat, which I'm going to keep in our campaign. I'm going to use that feat, but I'm going to keep that as a feat. The marks will gradually grow, potentially getting as far as greater, but if one of the players wants their character to manifest this sort of apex level mark, that's a very different and very impactful narrative choice, and I'm going to let the character make that without it being just a thing that happens. That's the difference between being Jean Grey and being Phoenix.
Yeah.
So
stay tuned.
Yeah, we'll speaking as the telepath. Yeah,
we're about to hit 4th level here pretty soon. So just jump straight from
that feat has a level requirement. So.
Ahri, your mark goes from a tiny spot on the back of your head to down to your neck. Just lines everywhere.
Oh, that's good. So, yeah. Well,
okay.
Hope you all enjoyed this little insight into Ahri and update on some of the mechanics we're using. If you are enjoying the show, please give us a like, give us a subscribe, come see us on Discord and talk to us about the show. We always enjoy getting a chance to engage with our viewers on any of the platforms. If you give us a comment below. We'll try to get back to you. One of us at least. We'll usually manage to. And we hope you've been just really enjoying this. We're having a blast making it. If there's something you'd like to see discussed on a future Answers episode, one of these Friday episodes, or something you'd like to see us do on one of these little Friday extras, let us know in the comments. We're very open to this. We've done a few different things. I've talked about DMing. I've talked about lore. We've done a lot of these little character interviews. So we're kind of just using these as a little extra content that's not in the world. So if there's something else you'd be interested in hearing discussed or seeing done, if you want to just do one where I make RA show you all of his pop vinyls he's been revealing slowly, or you want to find out what's in the blurry stuff in the back of Eric's wall, we can we can do that. So anyway, let us know, and we hope you'll keep boy. Words. It's very late. Eric streamed very late, and it's like 12. It's 12:30. Yeah,
it is. It is officially tomorrow. So
it is tomorrow. Okay. Anyway, we hope you will continue to enjoy the show. And this has been Khyber Shards. I'm Philip,
and I'm Eric.
Thanks for rolling with us.
Bye.